This is where they're going to get together and they're going to discuss exactly what worked, what didn't work, and how they have to use consensus building in order to
UN's going to do that.
All the states within the United Nations systems will get together.
That's amazing.
The whole world will get together and they'll discuss how their implementation of Agenda 21 isn't working or is working. Listen, I would feel much better if the entire public of the United States understood where this came from and then made the decision to go forward or not. In the beginning of our country, it was either we're going to become a republic or not.
Yeah.
Where are the checks and balances with the United Nations? There doesn't seem to be any checks and balances. So we can go, I could go on with this forever. Just remember also.
So there is no scoring. 2002, we didn't get a 8 out of 10 or a C- or anything like that.
There's
scoring. That sure do. That's the reason that we passed. I'm trying to remember all those treaties, but we didn't pass.
See what they're using. They use the Delphi. No, I'm going to talk about this. It's take forever.
But we do have. I hate to be a jerk and cut you off, but we do have to talk about the budget. It's not on the agenda. Thank you, Ed. You did a lot of work on this, and you put more zeal into this position than anybody has in quite a bit of memory.
So if I get sued, I have everybody's support.
Yeah. Moving right along. I was requested to put together a budget for next year, for January through December of 2012, from the selectmen and have it to them. I believe the cutoff was November 1st. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. My suggestion is that we have a level budget. I mean, financial times, again, are hard for everybody in town. I don't think we should be asking to go out and spend any additional money. The one thing that, of course, now here it comes, is I'm going to ask the board to consider leaving the SRPC money in there. Now, my term's up March whatever. I don't know what's going to happen that first meeting. It was a little surprise to me that folks didn't want to. I totally didn't see it coming that people were going to defund the SRPC thing this year. So I think that we should leave that money in there in the budget and let the next board decide what they want to do with the money for membership of the SRPC.
Does that
right.
Leaving that? Oh, sorry.
I respectfully disagree. I think if the next board wants that money, then they can go to the selectmen, go to the people, and ask for that increase in the budget. Mm-hmm. There's an opportunity to adjust that line item at the town meeting. Mm-hmm. Our process will allow that. I think that we should assume that what this board has decided is going to be what's going forward mm-hmm. until somebody decides otherwise.
My thinking behind it is not that I want us to send this money to SRPC. I don't. I want us to save the money, keep the money here in town. But we had that one scenario we talked about when we defunded it earlier in the year. And I went to the selectmen's meeting, I believe it was the next week, and I was questioned by, I believe it was Bill Nelson. He said, don't you get maps and things like that from SRPC? And I remember at that point my answer to him was, well, if we get in a pickle, we can always send the check off and join to get whatever this value, perceived value, is greater than the amount we're sending. It's kind of a weasel answer. But, that's one of the things we need to discuss right now about the budget is the value, the cost, I should say, for membership this year was budgeted $788.67. So I assume it'll be, in the previous year it was $750 previous year we budgeted, and $750 the previous year to that. So I assume the cost of membership is around $800. So, as I was saying, I was going to submit this as it's my job to come up with a budget, and I don't want to raise the budget, period. The amount last year was $14,265, just as everybody's wondering. Yes, Rob?
So, I'm not threatening, but there's a very, very high likelihood that if that money is left in the budget, that at town meeting I will offer an amendment to lower the planning board's budget by that amount.
And I'll second that.
Well, I'm not making a motion. I'm
just telling you to count on me for a second.
So, I mean, it can be changed either way.
Sure. I mean, my logic is just straightforward. I mean, I'm not saying we should spend the money or not spend the money. I'm just saying I wanted to leave it in there for that reason.
Your timing is exquisite.
I know. Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah, take it out.
Okay. Cliff?
leaving that money in there, does that level fund it, or does that add more to the budget line?
That would be, I assume it would actually increase it slightly because their dues tend to go up every year. So what we would do is defund something else like tapes, binders, etc.
What happened to the money?
We would
that
keep the
didn't
total amount the board spends the same, but if we, I'm sorry, just a minute. If their dues were to go up to like $795 or something from $788, we would just subtract it from.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
These lovely maps that they make to it for us, and they make them in lots of colors for us. Is that $800 worth of paper and ink?
I don't know. I mean, that's, I don't know.
I think right now you should put it to a vote to this board to decide whether or not they want to leave that funding in there or not. And if the board decides not to leave it there, then they can take it out. If for some reason, the board has to join SRPC and pay these next year, I'm sure the town can find the money.
Booney?
What happened to the money that we didn't spend?
It's just sitting in the town accounts. Just
Actually, the money that you didn't spend this year,
yeah.
do we know what our budget is for this year?
$14,265.
No, do we know what we spent this year to date?
I don't know what we've spent versus the
I
budget.
will find out
There
tomorrow.
was
Yeah.
basically $800 that we didn't, that was budgeted, that we
Yeah.
didn't spend.
Well,
Did it go back
788.67.
to the- yeah.
So what happens to that money then, any money that this board does not spend, rolls back into our general fund and becomes unreserved, and then at the end of the year, it goes into our unreserved funds, which helps buy down your tax rate and stay in the unreserved fund for a rainy day in case we have a natural disaster. We can pull from those funds
Thank you.
to pay for natural disasters and emergencies.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you very much. I don't think we should spend the money.
Any other discussion? Well, there are other items on the budget here. Let's just go through here. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Just real quick. When you know where it comes from, you can very easily say you don't want to fund anything. You don't want to fund it. The problem is there's other people in town that may or may not be watching, or they don't know this. How can we let the rest of the town understand why the decision was made? Because the first time the decision was made not to fund it, a lot of people were up in arms about why we weren't funding it. So what would be someone's suggestion of how we can better educate the rest of Brookfield so they know why we're not, so then everybody in one loud chorus can say no?
Well, I think that the best place for that would be town meeting.
Because we want to spend 4 hours talking about that at town meeting.
Well, no, I think that if folks want to, you know, if the reason I wanted to leave it in there, like I said, was in case we get into some huge pickle and we really need their planning services.
They're not pickle solvers.
Yeah, I don't
They're
know.
not.
If you leave it in there, an
Yeah,
amendment is going to be offered, and the can of worms is going to be opened, and for better or worse, we're
Right.
discussing what the hell SRPC does, where they come from, where the money goes, what we get for it, what we don't get for it, etc.
that,
You know, I can jump off that.
you know, if
Ethiopia.
you know, there's different ways to do this. I mean, if it's the matter of exposing what's going on here is the real issue, making sure not just the folks in this room and the folks who choose to watch the broadcast, but if you want to make it an issue where you want to present it to the whole town, then I would suggest that you leave it in the budget and then make that fight at town meeting, yet not just bring it up right at town meeting, but you know, if you wanted to make that that exposed, get the word out ahead of time and say, this is why I'm going to make this amendment down the road.
Well,
I'm sure that you'd probably get a lot of sympathy.
I think that I still think that given that this board has decided that we don't want to fund the SRPC
For this year.
For this year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like there's somebody who wants to put it back in for next year that's currently sitting on the board. Mm-hmm. It seems like this natural thing would be to keep if you keep the budget level, like you said, which is not have that item in the budget, keep it level to what we're planning on spending this year.
Right.
Right.
So, I see what you're saying. So you're saying rather than it was in the budget this year, we just chose not to spend it.
Right.
So you're saying level on what our actual activity is, and along that logic, don't fund it.
Right. And now somebody may come back. There's lots, as pointed out, there's lots of people that are really into this. They think it's important, and somebody may very well come to the meeting with an amendment to add the funding back, in the hopes that the planning board will choose to, and they may be lobbying the planning board to, and there may be somebody running based on
Sure.
turning SRPC back on. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So my inclination would be take it out,
Mhm.
It's not in our budget, it's not in our plan this year.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be in our plan for next year. Take it out of the budget. Somebody can always try to add it back. In regard to how to get the word out, I don't think town meeting's the best forum for that.
Mhm.
But we have local papers. I think you could advertise that you're going to be taught. I mean, yes, they mentioned this. You know, the fact that this is available every week. But I mean, you may want to run if you want to take. I mean, I think you probably
An editorial.
Well, no. Well, you could be writing a letter to the editor and run maybe as part of that, say, look, I'm going to have a discussion on Saturday. Whatever at the town offices at Brookfield or Wolfboro, wherever you think you can get the best audience, and go through this stuff. Let people ask questions. Educate people on this. People, the people that want to, know this stuff they read the paper. They'll show up. And the people that don't care, they won't.
When's your final draft have to be in, Tom?
No, November 1st. But I kind of want to just finish it up. Cliff, you've been real patient.
How many times did SRPC come here this year?
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, they did come once, didn't they?
And, yeah, they wanted us to sign up for something.
How many times?
But how many times did they come here and explain the necessities for us to be a member and a paying member to their organization once we pulled our funding? Did we see Cynthia come up here and say, I understand that the board has pulled the funding. Please explain why you pulled the funding, and maybe I can answer some questions.
To that, she never showed up, but she never contacted us either.
She was supposed to come after the guy showed up.
I have the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ed.
She had the flu and she couldn't be here. She was sick.
Okay.
So I did invite her over because I wanted to be honest and transparent. I wanted her to ask the question very respectfully. I wanted to ask her the questions and have her answer it, but that never happened.
So I was going to say, she's had the flu for a year?
Well,
I
we've
mean,
never,
she got healthy, and she never came.
When that happened, we never invited her back. I mean, I never gave him a spot on the
All she had to do
agenda.
was call us and ask us to be put on the agenda. We've never turned her down.
No, that's true.
So,
I'm sorry.
It's always struck me that we are really not part of Stratford Regional because we are not a growing or diminishing city like Rochester or Dover. We are a very small town, the second smallest town in the state. And so they're really not geared to speak to our problems. That's why they wanted us to have sidewalks.
If maybe somebody else on the board who's been on a lot longer than me could, I was told on the side that the reason we switched from Lakes Region Planning to Stratford Regional Planning was the Lakes Region Planning people, all they ever talked about was lakes. Talked about development along the edge of the lakes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's before my time.
I mean, yeah, it's before my time. Cliff, was that when you were here?
what's that?
When we switched from Lakes Region to Stratford?
It was before my time.
So it's been quite a while that we've been with Stratford. You've been here 7, 8 years?
That's because
10 years?
the Lakes region did absolutely nothing for us and gave us nothing other than took our money.
Sounds familiar.
That
Sounds really familiar.
I think that is really a function of the size of our town.
I believe so.
I mean, because we don't have an urban center. It's hard.
So the way that we rebel and we sound off is we pull our dues from them and save our taxpayers a few pennies on their taxes, and maybe eventually they'll start listening to us as more towns start to pull their funding and their dues. They're going to have to stand up and listen and figure out why these towns are seceding from their little
It won't.
group.
It won't.
Any other comments on this particular issue?
Strike it.
What's available in the way of freelance independent planners that contract on an individual basis?
Well, we actually, it's important to note here, we used to have a line item going back, I have the budgets going back several years if anybody wants to look at them. We have a line item called planning services, and we had it at $2,500 in 2010, 2009, 2008, 2008. It says here the note was reduced by 2,000 per the December 13th, 2010 PB meeting. So on that date, we reduced it from $2,000 to $500, and that was our line item in there for external planning services. Do you remember?
2010.
Yeah, on December 13th, 2010.
We finished the master plan by that time.
No, I kind of remember that meeting. I think it was a cost-saving issue, if I remember. I wish Ed was here because he was the guy spearheading it at that moment. But planning services, if I remember correctly, as